Hello, fellow leggers.
Welcome back if you've been before, if you're new around here. We're back at the Birmingham Rep tonight. We haven't been here for a while,
We
actually.
haven't been here for a while, but here we are back again in the heart of the Midlands.
We are to see a stage adaptation of Joseph Conrad's extraordinary novel, Heart of Darkness.
So, stick around to find out how many stars...
Whether it's break a leg
or leg it. I've never heard of this. Should I have?
I mean, it's been around for 100 years now, the original novel.
Okay.
And the novel told the story of a character called Charles Marlowe, travelling up the Congo River into the Congo Free State, right in the heart of Africa, and then uncovering lies and the brutal greed of the period.
Wow.
This has been changed, actually, and the story's sort of been modernised for this production.
Interesting.
And it now has the journey of a black woman travelling through war-torn Europe, exploring a forsaken landscape and the destructive lust for power. So
it sounds quite interesting
those
already.
themes still of sort of a dark underbelly and power and greed and rebellion
I've transposed
into and of a more modern day. And we get to experience race, gender, and themes of exploitation and violence. And the image for this actually is the black woman holding a gun. It seems quite powerful. So I've got high hopes for this.
Okay, it does sound quite interesting.
Yeah, directed by Pete Brooks and Andrew Quick. It premiered in Italy actually, and is on a UK tour right now, and we're picking it up here at Birmingham, but it's going to go out more places, and we'll pop information down below. It's around 2 hours, including an interval.
Brilliant, so stick around to hear our 30-second interval breakdown thoughts.
Yeah, and then stick around to find out how many stars at the end. Well, it's the interval of Heart of Darkness here at the lovely Birmingham Rep.
Which means it is time for the break leggers 30-second interval breakdown. Go! What do you think so far? You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm on the fence. It's got some really strong elements. For me, I'm not quite sure whether I'm being detracted by the use of a massive amount of visuals. It's almost cinematic, more so than anything else I've ever seen. What about you?
I think the use of projection and videography, etc., is fantastic. Videography is fantastic in this. Some of the best I've seen integrated into theatre. The piece is getting stronger as it's going along, so too soon to say. So we've come to the end. Quite an interesting piece, quite an interesting experience.
I don't like that word, interesting, because for me, it's a bit vague. Can you be a bit more specific?
Is it like beige? Interesting. Well, I think we'll have many a conversation. This is definitely a conversation starting piece.
And I think the point here is we're probably not going to be able to get in and summarise absolutely everything there is to take away from this piece.
There's so much.
It's going to be something that's going to cause a lot of conversation. It's going to cause some controversy. And depending on who you are and what you feel about this piece and how it speaks to you personally, I think you're going to come away with a completely different opinion, depending on what your past is, or what your gender is, or what your sexuality is, or what your race is. I think it works on so many levels. And now that's a bit. Now talk about being broad.
No, we're a bit broad and vague
let's rein it in a little bit.
So I guess this is why I'm saying it's quite an interesting piece, because I think it will spark conversation and it will spark discussion. I found the piece got better as it went on. I got it. 2/3 of the first act were just...
That's quite late for a buy-in, though.
It was, but what kept it going was the fantastic use of storytelling. This, should we talk about the use of video cameras?
I want to go back a little bit further here, and I want to talk about story. I want to start with that.
Okay.
So I would say we don't know the original novel on which this is based. I didn't even know that Apocalypse Now is an adaptation of Heart of Darkness. I've never seen Apocalypse Now.
I think I've seen it a long time ago.
It's a classic. I feel ashamed to say I've not seen it, but I haven't seen it. But I think its themes, are clearly cross sort of generational, are cross oceanic. Because it's originally set in the Congo, yet they've set it now in Europe. It's a piece about greed, about power, and it's a piece about responsibility. Interestingly enough, it has a lot of parallels with a very, very, very dark matter.
It does. It almost tells that story of the colonization, of what was going on in the Congo, and about the millions of lives that were lost, that were people that slaughtered. Was it by Belgian?
Yeah, Belgian colonization, predominantly at the turn of the century. It's a very dark period.
The more you learn about history, the more you hate human beings.
Yeah, you do.
I think you can't live in a bubble when you are educated.
What I particularly liked
it's
about
scary.
this is it didn't shy away from the idea that, do you know what, we've got a lot to be proud about as nations, but we've also got a huge amount to be ashamed about. And there's a fantastic moment in the second act where they sing Land of Hope and Glory as a force kind of patriotism, and yet show a barrage of things that as Brits we should be thoroughly ashamed of, i.e. Nigel Farage and Brexit and Brits abroad and things
colonialism.
Like we just can't. We just can't be particularly proud of.
We call it Great Britain, but
Yeah.
it really asks the question: how great is Britain, and what was that greatness built upon? The exploitation, the murder of others. Do you know what I mean?
It's a challenging originally a piece of writing, and now a challenging play, sort of shedding old light on new subjects.
And how relevant it still is, kind of now bringing it into the realms of capitalism and what it means to have power and greed and who
influence.
who we stamp on as a result. All those people who are head of corporate, I guess, big businesses and money-making brands and firms, who is at the very bottom getting just exploited.
And I mean, that's
relevant
the
now.
story, but you say as it brilliantly brought to life by use of projection and video design predominantly.
Okay, and that is worth the admission of the ticket alone. I don't think I've seen anything like it on stage. That integration of kind of cinematography, of cameras,
we
projectors.
saw it a little bit in
Network.
It's a little bit in Red Barn, sort of, in the way that it's staged. But this is more meta than that.
On all of that, I think this is the best integration I've seen.
But what do you mean by best? Because it's a specific genre. I mean,
I've never seen it before, and what I have seen on stage has been little elements of this. This is incorporated throughout. Camera angles, different screens doing what, the cast moving the cameras throughout. It was almost like the story was being told cinematically throughout as well as on stage. It was almost like, when you see Avenue Q and you're looking at the puppets and you forget that it's the actor holding the puppets. There are times when I was forgetting what was happening on stage and I was just looking at the screen, interested in what was being told through the screen when it was being presented.
For all of the positives you're taking from that, for me it detracted from the actors at times. I felt like I may as well just be watching a film because it was that cinematic. At times it almost felt a little bit like Call Out. So like the Rocky Horror Show where they act in front of the film, as a sort of homage to the film, especially when bits of film were played from, say, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, very clever
moments. I
moments.
felt like that was a little bit Rocky Horror Show midnight screening. I don't know if it brought a huge amount at certain times, but at other points it was the highlight. I have very mixed feelings about it, to be honest with you.
I thought it was great,
but
and
in terms of concept, clever.
And what you could do is you could pull in really tight to the actors' faces. Almost it turned Bond-esque towards the end of the second act. Anyway, I'll come on to that in the second act.
Yeah.
But you could put in really tight, and the lead actress was literally doing nothing, but there was so much going on, and that you can't
I suppose
get.
You would lose that from a
as soon as you
point of view.
get 5 rows back, you lose what is going on here, and yet you could pull in tight, and that was magical.
So between the director, co-writer Andrew Quick, director, co-writer Peter Brooks, and Simon Wainwright of projection and video design and production design, wonderful
in those elements.
Yeah, I also particularly liked the use of music throughout. I think that was a major plus point, because there are moments in any production where you have quieter, more static parts, and you run the risk of losing an audience. Subtle underscoring does a huge amount, and Jeremy Peyton-Jones acknowledges that.
Yeah. Now, it did lose me a little bit in the second act when it did turn very... But before then, it was all very close. It could have been very now, but then it almost spun out a bit in terms of, is it a kind of parallel universe where it's a world after the Second World War and civilization didn't quite find its feet, and then it kind of got a bit distant to where we were, and we had a big scene that was almost, it rivaled the character, is it Kurtz? He almost then became like a Bond villain.
A little bit caricature.
It was a fantastic Bond villain. Mm-hmm. It was great.
Remind me of that actor you really like, Christopher Waltz.
Yes, it was very much of that ilk. In fact, who was the actor who played that part in this? I'm putting you on the spot now.
You are.
Because he played that character really well. They all play, mainly, I think, apart from Marlowe, they all play many characters.
Matt Prendergast.
Matt Prendergast. I mean, he did some fantastic parts in this. He was absolutely brilliant. Any other cast members while we're here?
I mean, I think Morgan Bailey, he's a young black actor. He was very good in the role of Man and Davis. Great use of accents with him, actually. Thoroughly believable. I was very impressed by that. And I suppose we should mention Keisha, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Keisha, Greenidge, who played Marlowe predominantly, but they all have sort of ensemble parts as well. The story's a story within a story. It's a group of actors or media students or English students getting together to dissect.
Or even playwrights, maybe.
Yeah,
they're putting on a production.
And they're trying to dissect the piece. They're trying to dissect the novel. They're trying to find the best bits from the film adaptations, and they're discussing it as it's coming to life before you in film and on stage.
And each of them...
It's like a film within a play, within a film, within a...
Yeah.
It's very hard to describe.
But it kind of helps make sense of what's going on stage and how they've kind of come to the story that they've come to in what they're presenting, and how each of them has, kind of what you're saying earlier, a different point of view or a different interpretation of the book. Then that book to now, does it still stand? Do we want to have the Marlowe as a male character? Do we even want to have it set in the Congo, or do we want to shift it and now it's being set in England? It's just so many nice discussions about the relevance.
And discussions that you will take away from the stage and take home with you, which, what more could theatre ask for, really? What more could you want?
Interesting.
Very interesting. Anyway, let's round it up. So, for Heart of Darkness, here at the Birmingham Rep.
Going out on a UK tour.
Yes, we are going to give... 4
stars for this piece.
I think this production company, Imitating the Dog, are quite known for their use of integrated media. I think it's something that we don't see a huge amount of. Well, we don't see a lot of it done well. We see little sort of people attempt at it, we see, but they have bloody well nailed it when it comes to this sort of genre, which crosses the boundary between cinema and theatre. And for a now generation, I think it has a really big place and a part to play, and more so probably than ever.
Yeah, a really interesting topic, a really interesting way of telling the story, integrated modern day media, a great ensemble on stage. We didn't talk about all the actors, but they were great and supporting of each other in terms of technical support live on stage as well.
Yeah, standing ovation for the production guys. Literally, you must be so busy, you are earning your bloody keep there, so well done.
It takes a while to get going, so I guess that's a lack of a star there. That's kind of where that's missing. Some of the performances were better than others in places. You're always hinging on technology, and sometimes there can be gremlins, and unfortunately there are some gremlins in our performance this evening.
Didn't detract too much from me, though.
No, just took your mind away, but come the end it made sense. Very interesting, but that's what I think.
Yeah, and that's just what I think. I think we're both off to watch Apocalypse Now.
I think we need to.
Yeah, so have you seen that film? Have you seen the show? Have you read the book? Comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. Hit subscribe if you want to see more of us, because we're the Break-a-Leggers.
And we'll catch you again soon.
Bye.